Woo! Uh-huh. It sure is sunny. It's another amazingly sunny day here in Vancouver. My heavens, we've just celebrated Thanksgiving. And if you are from Canada, I just want to say that I hope you had a really special Thanksgiving weekend. It's always a super special holiday here in our house because back in 2012, just days before Thanksgiving, is when I found out that I had achieved this miraculous remission from what was once thought to be a terminal palliative 2-month prognosis with leukemia. And I had pursued any and everything in the natural healthcare realm. And just days before Thanksgiving, I was given this amazing news of this miraculous remission in the medical world. It's called a spontaneous remission. And so this was actually my 11th bonus Thanksgiving. And I was just so incredibly blessed with the gift of togetherness to get to enjoy those beautiful moments with my beautiful family. So if you are from Canada, I hope you had an amazing Thanksgiving weekend. And I am thankful today for Miss Sydney Gill, who's joining us today. I'm going to give you a big introduction in a sec, Sydney, but risers and thrivers, gosh, I hope you really appreciated that last show. Last time it was all about women's health, and we talked a lot about, we really opened up the conversation on cancer and menopause, and it was a really powerful show. So if you missed it, it's available for download on any of our favorite streaming platforms. So be sure to access it. And today we're talking a bit more about physical health. And Sydney is just this incredible, incredible force. Look at her. She's just 23 years old, and she has already been through so much more than most of us could ever even imagine. So at the age of 9, she had started to experience pain and some symptoms into her arms, and her doctors just kind of offset it as growing pains. And it wasn't until a few years later when she was riding her horse. She's a competitive horseback rider. She's incredible. And she had a fall from her horse and she broke her collarbone. And so upon that, they realized she had these 2 extra cervical ribs. And these extra cervical ribs, gosh, can cause a lot of problems and lead to something called Thoracic Outlet Syndrome, where those ribs can put pressure on our nerves and our blood vessels and cause a lot of ongoing pain and disability and sensory loss and motor loss. And gosh, Sydney has experienced so much. So she's here to tell us all about her story and all that she has been through and all the tools that she's used along the way to be shining and smiling here with us today, and in pre-health sciences and back to horseback riding. And gosh, risers and thrivers, we've got an incredible show today. So welcome back. Thank you, Sydney, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you're here. Now, I have heard all about Sydney for years from her beautiful grandparents, who I know very well from back in my hometown of Northern Ontario. And then I had the amazing blessing of meeting beautiful Sydney just this past summer when I was home with my boys, and we all got the chance to spend some time with Sydney. And I just felt she was such a powerful force, as I said, that I really wanted to bring her to you today and just to give her this platform to share her story with you, because she's really, really remarkable. Sydney, can you take us back? And, what did you start to notice as a younger girl at the time when you started to have, you started to have your first symptoms? What was that like for you?
So I was 9 years old, and it was very distressing because I would have a lot of pain on the inside of my arms, and it wouldn't happen very often, maybe once or twice a week. But when it did happen, it was very severe and very distressing, like I said. So I would have severe pain, when you hit your funny bone, it's painful, and that's actually the ulnar nerve that you're hitting, and that's what was being compressed, was my ulnar nerve. And so kind of that kind of pain, but worse. So to kind of put idea of what it feels like. Kind of
Yeah, that's awful.
electrical, kind of electrical pain, because that's what nerve pain is characterized as. Um, so I suffered from that just on my
And
own.
Jenny, did you have that both sides on both arms?
No, so it was just my right side
I
at
see.
the beginning. So that was my dominant hand. Um, and so I'm right-handed. And um, it wasn't until I broke my collarbone that uh, it became worse. And then my left side started to experience the same symptoms as well. So I went a good 6 years without any medical intervention, and just being told that, it's growing pains, it's nothing to worry about. There was no imaging done. Um, so I kind of just suffered with that for quite a long time.
And how did that
Um,
make you feel? Were you frustrated about that? About that there were really no answers coming to help you? Like, I bet you know your body, you know something's wrong. How did you feel about that at the time? You're so young.
it was very frustrating. I would say that it was also scary to have a real experience and not have any answers to that experience. And especially being at a young age, you it's hard to know how to advocate for yourself. And, well, is it as serious as she's saying it is, or is she just a child and she's uh, blowing it out of proportion, or things like that? So um, it was a lot of just second guessing myself as well.
Yeah.
Is
Self-doubt, I bet, right?
is this as bad as it feels, or am I overreacting, or things like that? So it was just very, very difficult time, where I was second guessing myself as well.
I bet that must have been hard. And were you able to still participate in everything of life at this time? Like, did it hold you back from any activities? Did it hold you back from school? Were you having so much pain you couldn't attend school? Like, how did it impact your life at this point?
So I was a tough kid, so I didn't let it impact my life. I wasn't taking any medications for it, and especially because it would only be intermittent. Whenever I went to the doctor, it wouldn't present itself. So it was very difficult to get a diagnosis when the issue isn't present during examination. Um, so, um, yeah.
Yeah, that's hard, I bet. Gosh. And then would your friends notice it too, or no?
So I kind of tried to keep it to myself, and I didn't want to draw too much attention to myself, so I didn't really speak about it with my friends.
Okay. And then so you have this fall off your horse, and tell me about this.
So it was the last couple minutes of our ride, and I think a bee stung him or something, and he just freaked out. And and the saddle just like completely went up onto his neck. So of course I fell off, and I broke my collarbone. You could see it; it was almost pushing out of the skin. So I went in the ambulance because my dad had the horse trailer and we couldn't bring the horse to the hospital.
Of course.
So I went in the ambulance with my friend, and we went to the hospital. And by the next day, the pain was more severe than the break pain. And break pain is very painful, especially a collarbone where you can't set it in a cast. So every movement is excruciating. The pain in my right arm was worse than the break pain. And that's when we knew something was really wrong.
So did they is this how they found the cervical ribs? They would have done an x-ray?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they did an X-ray, and they thought they saw something, and then they did an MRI and a CT scan, and that's when they could really see the structures.
And at this point, now that you're finally getting some answers to finally bring some resolution to all those years, right? As to like an explanation, how did you feel? Did it make you more scared or were you happy to have these answers?
Well, I was happy to have the answers that maybe finally something is going to be done about this issue that is, um, affected me for so long. But I was also really scared because the symptoms were so severe and really unbearable at that point. So I was very nervous about the future.
Of course. And did that have any impact on your mental health?
Yes. So, all my overall my surgeries and stuff, I developed PTSD, and also developed depression from just the isolation and the impact of being in pain all the time does to your ability to do the things that you love and participate in things.
Of course. Now, Sydney, tell us, it was really difficult to finish high school. And how long did it take you to finish because of all the pain and surgeries along the way, which we'll get
It
into in a second?
it took me 8 years to finish high school, and before I broke my collarbone, I got honors. So I was a very motivated student. So and so that it was very. It's not like me to not finish high school on time with very good marks.
Yeah, of course. But you must have been so proud of yourself for finally finishing once after you've been through everything.
Yeah.
I think you're so remarkable. So take us back a bit more though. So you find these ribs, you have an explanation for what's happening with your arms and all the pain and all the dysfunction you had been experiencing. What was the first step after that for treatment?
So I was referred to a neurosurgeon at McMaster Children's Hospital, and he was not very familiar with the condition. So he asked a plastic surgeon at the hospital if he would have more experience with it because he operates on babies when they're born and they get their arms caught when they're born, and they tear
Brachial plexus. Yeah.
their brachial plexus. So he operates on those babies. So he thought maybe the plastic surgeon, might have some more experience to the situation.
I see. And did this bring you hope?
Yeah, it did bring me a lot of hope that there were people that believed me and that there were going to be some real action steps put in place to correct the situation.
Right? Like so frustrating, for years you had to endure this. And when you just say, finally, somebody believed me, like that's just such a frustrating process that perhaps somebody could have looked into it and done some sort of investigation earlier for you. It must have been so hard for you.
Especially we live in Canada.
Worse.
Imaging is free. Not that we wouldn't have paid if we lived in the States, but there wasn't really any reason to not investigate further into the situation.
Yeah, of course. And you say it's very rare. Now, thoracic outlet syndrome, there's a lot of adults that experience thoracic outlet syndrome, even just from postural abnormalities, right? And they'll get
Mhm.
some compression on the nerves, whether it's from, tight muscles, it's extracervical ribs, it can come from anything, right? But a lot of adults will experience it from these accident. Definitely, you're very right. But is it very rare? It must be incredibly rare in children.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
it's very rare for it to present in children, and a lot of surgeons are very hesitant to operate on children.
I bet.
Um, So that can add another layer of complexity to the situation.
Now, you've had 5 surgeries overall, which is astounding. And so you've had some failed surgeries here in Canada. And let's talk about that a bit. What was the goal of the first few surgeries and what went wrong?
The goal was to remove the structures,
The
but in
ribs, the extra
yeah,
ribs.
so
Yeah,
cervical ribs and the first rib,
I see. Yeah.
just to create as much space as possible. Um, but in Canada, unfortunately, they have a philosophy that they only need to remove the part of the ribs that is affecting the nerves. And the issue with this is because it's bone, it will grow back because it will try to heal itself.
Of course.
Bone grows back, as we know.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so that was the issue. So I had the surgeries here. They relieve the symptoms for like a month or two, and then the symptoms would come back, but even worse because the bone would regrow. And then what happened was the bone got regrew and got tangled in the nerve.
Well, and I bet extra scar tissue would form all around that area too, and forming more compression.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, so that must have been really hard for you in terms of your mental health as well, right? Like you get a little bit better, and then you just sink right back down again. Gosh, that must have been so hard and almost even worse.
Yeah, it was really difficult, especially going through it 3 times and then ending up worse off each time after doing it.
So at
So
this point, what was your function like?
I had pretty much no function. I was on the couch all day. I couldn't even wash my own hair. My mom had to do it for me. It was even difficult to eat because of the repetitive motion of bringing the fork up to my mouth constantly was very difficult. Like simple everyday tasks like that we often take for granted.
Tell me what positions made it flare up in particular.
So any repetitive movement, and any movement where I had to put my arms above my head. So that would just make the compression worse. And so washing hair was probably the most difficult task.
Did you find anything that would provide you relief in this time? Was there any posture? Was there any position that would just take it all away?
Well, I found heat and cold to be very helpful.
Yeah,
So um, homemade heat packs sprayed with water are the best in my
I
opinion.
see.
Um, and then unfortunately medication. So things like certain antidepressants, anticonvulsants, like Lyrica that are used for nerve pain. I was using medical marijuana. I was on high dose opioids, and muscle relaxants, pretty much the whole pharmacy, just because I couldn't function. And it was the only thing that really helped me um, to be able to uh, even just exist.
Gosh, must have been such hard days. Did you feel so alone, Sydney?
Yes, I did. I found it was very difficult to for people to understand what was going on. I did meet some really great friends though. I went to a get up and go program at Holland Bloorview Rehabilitation Hospital in Toronto, which is sick kids rehab hospital. So I met some really great friends there that I still talk to this day. And then also the Hamilton DeGroot Pain Clinic set up their own program, and I went to a week program there, and I still have lifelong friends from that program.
That's amazing. I found too on my own journey, like those supports and people that we never otherwise would have met, right, along the journey. I just feel like I was always meant to meet those people,
Mm,
and I feel like sometimes our adversities happen or just bring us to those people. And I just feel like it's such a blessing.
yeah, and they really are the ones that can understand what's going on, whereas other people, it's very difficult for them to grasp or know how to support you in that time.
Of course. And I also found it a little bit challenging too, right? Like when I was in the hospital, and of course, I wanted everybody to come see me. Of course, I had 60 people come to see me most days really early on, right? And I loved it. I needed those connections. But at the same time, it's also brutally hard, when you're watching other people out there living life to the fullest, and I would be stuck in that hospital bed and they would all come in, dressed to the nines, off to go to whatever other function they were leaving for next, and then they would go and I would just feel like such a void. I felt like I was just like incarcerated against my will, I just felt so alone. And you're right, like unless we're really connecting with those people who do understand the depth of hardship, you do feel alone, even if you're surrounded by 60 people every day. You're just, and especially for you, my heavens, like at that age, watching all your girlfriends go off and, get to go to events together and do all these things that I bet you wanted to be right there by their sides for. It must have been so brutally hard for you, Sydney.
Yeah, exactly. It's very difficult to watch people be able to chase their dreams and live their life, and for you to be held back from that, especially when you have so many aspirations yourself.
We're going to hear more about the successful surgeries in the States in a second, but tell me, when along the line did you get your amazing support dog, Trooper?
So, Trooper, I got him in 2017.
Okay.
Um, he's very special because he was born with a cleft palate himself.
Oh, I
So
see.
yeah, so he had to be drop fed as a puppy, which is a painstaking process. And I thought it was very special to have him, that we both had issues that we had to take care of each other for. So um, for those very difficult days, I had Trooper carry my things for me in his pack. And he would also act as a barrier so people couldn't bump into me. So they see the dog and they'll give a good birth, whereas a lot of the times I'm not very tall. People will just bump, bump right past you.
That's a good point. I bet that would cause a lot of pain to be bumped.
Yeah, it would make
Oh my
things.
heavens, I never even thought about that. And so Trooper really brought you a lot of support.
Yeah, exactly. Physically and mentally. There was a lot of times where he would come to the hospital, and he would get right up on my bed and give me kisses. And it really gave me a lot of hope and a reason to fight.
I love that. And companionship.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, and so these failed surgeries are going on. You're really having hard days. So what is the change? What turned things around for you?
So the surgeon here said, "There's nothing more that I can do. You're just gonna have to live like this." And my parents said,
Could you imagine, just pause there for a second. Could you imagine risers and thrivers to be in this much pain, this much dysfunction, and for somebody to tell you there's nothing else I can do, just get ready to live like this. Could you imagine what this must have felt like for Sydney? I can't at such a young age, imagining a whole life with that much pain and dysfunction. My heavens.
so the recommendation was pain management, mental health support, and disability income support programs. So those were the recommendations to be able to continue my life. And my parents said this was unacceptable. So actually, it's kind of funny. There's a support page on Facebook, and we people were talking on there about these surgeons in the States, so Dr. Thompson, Dr. Pearl, and specifically Dr. Donahue. So Dr. Donahue is the surgeon that we went with, and he's located in Boston at Massachusetts General Hospital, which is affiliated with Harvard. So very reputable institution. And we decided to go see him for a consult, not having much hope, but thinking we've got nothing to lose. So let's just see what this guy has to say. So,
Pause for 1 sec, Sydney. So I just want to really, because you covered a lot right there really quickly, right? So you're given no hope, but your parents and yourself, like, you're not going to accept that. And I think that's amazing, right? We all have to really advocate for ourselves. We have to be the hero in our own stories, right? And your parents and yourself, you took the initiative to educate yourselves, to find resources, right? And these social media connections that you're making, to be informed, right? And you're finding these great resources in the States or wherever that may be, but you're taking charge of your own health, right? And I think that's a powerful force that you did in collaboration with your parents. And I just wanted to stop there because we all have to be our own hero in our own stories. And you did that. And that's really remarkable, because imagine if you hadn't, where you'd be right now.
yeah, I would still be on the couch, not doing the things that I enjoy, and really struggling. So, taking charge of your, um, you know, your life, and um, really researching the things that you need to in order to make a change in your life. And just because you're not getting the answers that you want to hear doesn't mean that there aren't those answers that you do want to hear out
Yes.
there. And sometimes you need to, step outside the box and step outside of your comfort zone, and really, uh, you know, um, see what's out there, and see if there are opportunities for you in other situations. So,
Just to our audience, like, that's just bang on, Sydney. And you're so right. And it, in a completely different parallel with me hearing the words of this 2-month terminal prognosis, right? I could have accepted that and just done that, right? And but I couldn't, just like yourself, I couldn't do that, and so I too researched everything I possibly could have. I too took charge. Whatever you're going through, take charge. It doesn't matter if it's a physical illness with an extra cervical rib, or all the dysfunction that came with that, cancer, mental health, whatever you are going through, take charge. Very well phrased.
yeah, exactly. So we went down to the States, not expecting much from the surgeon, but thinking that we got nothing to lose. So we met with him, and he sees a lot of Canadians that have gone through either being completely ignored or going through partial surgeries, where they end up worse off than they were originally. So he has excellent bedside manner, which is very rare for a doctor, and he was amazing. He spent so much time with us, and he really listened. Which and he says a quote that I think is very impactful. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
So
So,
true.
so he really lives by that, and that's one of his favorite quotes. So he really showed us that he cared, and we put our trust in him. And we saw him in December. He did a specialty CT scan that he's developed, and confirmed the continuation of those structures. So the cervical ribs and the first ribs were still there. And so he offered to us to take them out and completely remove them. So not just to take a section out that is impacting the nerve, to take the whole structure out. So we saw him in December, and by May he took them out. So I was quite up there on his list. My situation was quite serious, so he decided to operate quite quickly. And if anyone knows surgeons, that's quite a quick turnaround.
He's like an angel on your path, Sydney.
Yeah, exactly. So he operated on my right side in 2019. And so he took out the right cervical rib, the right first rib, and then also my right second rib was fractured and had not healed. And they don't know how this happened, but they suspect that when I had my other surgeries in Canada, they forgot to give me my medication after surgery. So I was in severe pain. And then they gave me my medication. They gave me too much, and I had a bit of a reaction to that. And it resulted in me having to be restrained because I was having a reaction, and they think it might have happened then. So I had a broken second rib that I was told was just like here in Canada was told, oh, it's just part of your syndrome. There's nothing we can do about it. They didn't do any imaging. So when we went down there, they said, no, your second rib is broken and it's grinding on itself. And that's why it hurts so much. So I was having a lot of pain with walking and breathing. So, and it was a prolonged fracture. So it was not healing itself. So that was a section of that was taken out so that it wouldn't grind on itself anymore. Mm-hmm. And I had both of my pec minors removed because I also had pec minor syndrome. So it's often a disorder that it goes alongside with thoracic outlet syndrome, where you have compression of the brachial plexus through the pec minors. So they went through my armpits and they took out both at the same time. So it was a very long surgery. It was 7.5 hours. And it was very difficult to recover from. I got worse before I got better. And I didn't see an improvement till 18 months later. So it was very, very difficult. But I'm really happy that I did it because it made a big difference.
I bet. I have so much empathy for you because after my double lung transplant, just for your whole story, but my heavens, after my double lung transplant, I had endured what's called a stretch injury of the brachial plexus because they overstretched my arm during that surgery. And my gosh, if the sheet had touched my arm, I was on fire. The only pain that I felt after that surgery, I mean, I felt pain all over, but like in my head, it was all centered right in my armpit. I had this like huge amount of inflammation in there. And then the nerves to my arm were just on fire. And I'll never forget that. I was intubated at the time, it was not pretty days. But at the same time, all I wanted was to try to shout out to somebody that it was my arm that was hurting. It wasn't anything else, but it was like a 100 out of 10 on a pain scale. I know I'm not a girl who's struggled with a lot of pain on my journey. I've been very fortunate. But that brachial plexus injury was so incredibly painful. And so I can only imagine, Sydney, a small degree, because for me, that was relatively short-lived. It was a few weeks, I can only imagine how mentally and physically exhausting that would have been for you to live with that degree of pain for so long.
Yeah, it's a very painful injury, having your brachial plexus injured. Those nerves are very sensitive, and they play one of the most important roles in your body, because we do everything with our arms.
Of course.
Without our arms, we can't do much. So to not have full use of your arms is very limiting, and a
Even,
very
even if you're
difficult.
even if you're not using your arms, like every position you do posturally impacts that. Like I just remember having to carry my arm literally in my early days of my recovery. Like it was just so incredibly painful. I can only imagine, Sydney, what you've been through.
Mhm.
You did have an extended hospital stay after that second surgery in the States. Is that right?
Yeah. So in December 2021, I had my left side done, and with your when you get your left side done, there's a lot higher risk of getting a chyle leak, because that's where the lymph vessels spill the lymph fluid back into the bloodstream, is right on the left side. So, unfortunately, because of the complicated nature of the surgery, um, I did have a very serious chyle leak, and I was hospitalized for 6 weeks, and I had a chest tube for 5 weeks. So I had a JP drain, which is a smaller drain that comes out of your neck after the thoracic outlet syndrome surgery, and they removed that because I was going to go home. And within a couple of days, the lymph fluid accumulated in my chest cavity to the point where I could barely breathe. So I went for an appointment where I was supposed to be discharged home, and we'd been there for about a month in the United States. And I ended up being told that I would have to stay and have emergency surgery that day. Um,
Wow.
so I went in for emergency surgery, and to have my chest drained, and my chest cavity, and 3 liters of fluid was removed. And I'm not a big girl, so that's a lot of fluid. Um, so that's like 2 big pop bottles
Gosh.
of fluid. So that was removed, and I had a chest tube for 5 weeks. And um, I was hospitalized for all of that time, um, and in a different country as well, which is very difficult. I was very fortunate to have my mom with me. Um,
Yes.
we're very privileged to have a private room. So, and they let her stay with me. So she stayed with me and in the hospital, and I really couldn't have gotten through that time without her, because the chest tube, as you know, is very painful. Um, it's not like a JP drain.
Oh,
um,
so painful.
yeah,
It's so painful. Gosh.
yeah, it's very painful. So
You and your amazing mom, you're quite the dynamic duo, I have to say.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have a few questions for you, Miss Sydney. So after all that you've been through, what are some of the lessons that you've learned? What are the lessons that have really changed your life that have come from all of this, from navigating chronic pain for so long? Has it brought you any lessons that you're thankful for now in how you live your life?
Um, well, I've learned that things that are worth doing are hard.
Hmm.
They're very hard, and but if they're worth doing, they're going to be hard. So that's a huge lesson that I learned. And I would also say that just the point about advocating for yourself, and listening to your body. Um, it's so important, and no one knows how you feel. So if you think something's serious, then it probably is. And even if someone doesn't listen to you, continue to push and find people that will. Um, because with thoracic outlet syndrome, so I wasn't able to, so I had compression on my artery as well. Uh, very fortunately, I did not get a blood clot, but there is, if you have compression on your artery, you can develop a blood clot and you can have a pulmonary embolism or stroke or heart attack. So it was life threatening. Um,
Or
so it's not just the pain, which is obviously life limiting and a serious issue, but it was also a life and death situation. So it's just really important to advocate for yourself and to find those answers.
I love that. So super powerful. Tell us, Sydney, what does life look like for you now?
So now I go to college full time, and I ride horses about every week, and um, I'm really starting to enjoy my life again. I'm still recovering from my surgery, um, so I still do have pain, but it's much improved since the surgeries. So I'm really starting to enjoy my life again, which is really nice. Spending time with my quality time with my family where I can actually enjoy it. Um, Taking care of my chickens and my miniature horses, which I really enjoy. Um, and riding again, which was a huge passion of mine. So to be able to restart that is very important to me, and to be able to show again as well. It was something that I really enjoyed as a child. So to be able to do that again is amazing, and to have
Well,
a
and you're not just doing it. Didn't you just win end of year champion?
Yes, I did. So I'm very blessed to have a coach that is very understanding and still helps me where I need some assistance. But yes, I did win the SOCTA end of the year champion for the 2 foot division. So
You're
um,
incredible. And then despite rises and thrivers, despite all the obstacles Sydney has faced with her learning, and obviously, the pain itself, but then all the treatments for the pain in terms of medication, all of these things would impact our focus, let alone the focus of someone so young needing to complete school. And not only has she finished high school, despite all that she's been through, not only did she set her mind and accomplish that goal, but she's now at college, and she's studying pre-health sciences. And this is just so incredible. No matter the obstacles in place, when we have a goal ahead, we can get that. We can get there, right? Stay focused. And Sydney's getting the supports in place. And I just think you're so remarkable, Sydney.
Thank you. Yeah, college has been a big goal for me. I hope to work in the healthcare sector to be able to make a difference to people the way that people made a difference for me when I was in the system. So that's my goal.
Okay, risers and thrivers, I hope you've loved this show. Gosh, Sydney, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's been remarkable meeting you. And I'm very happy that I was able to meet you through my grandparents.
Well, we're family, girl. We're going to be in touch for a long time. You can't get rid of me. Anyhow, yeah, risers and thrivers. I hope you found this as a powerful inspiration of hope. I hope you take these lessons away to take charge of your own health, of your own wellness, and really advocate for yourself. Be informed and keep pushing the boundaries, keep pushing the barriers to live the life that you want to live. Let Sydney be your example. All the best, risers and thrivers. Make it a great day. We'll see you on the next show. On the next show, I think we've got the real dad of Los Angeles. He's going to be a great guest as well. Can't wait to bring you that one. All the best. Make it a great day. Bye.